Well, good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder and this is BRN AM for Thursday, September 3rd, 2020. And our top stories today, great pajama jobs and tips for finding a job if you're over age 50. Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is personal finance expert, author, and New York Times columnist, Carrie Hannon. Carrie, welcome back to the program. Great to have you on this morning.
Jeff, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me back.
It's great to have you. Always great to check in. You always have such pertinent words of wisdom in your regular columns in the New York Times, Market Watch, and so many other places like AARP. I don't leave anybody out. But you just recently wrote a book that's set to be released, and it's called Great Pajama Jobs. I love the title. Tell me more. Tell us more.
Isn't that what we're all doing now?
We are. We are working remotely.
It's all about remote working. And the interesting thing is I started this book last summer. So it wasn't even, on the radar that we would all be in this situation right now, working from home remotely. But at that point, even Jeff, remote working was becoming a global movement. I mean, companies were starting to get hip to this idea that, yes, in fact, people could be relied on to do their jobs from their home offices or wherever they may be. And younger workers particularly had been asking for this kind of flexibility in their jobs as well. So we saw this coming, and I started working on pulling together what are some great pajama jobs. And so I can tell you a little bit more about the book as we move forward, but I'm really excited about it because it's a great tool for people right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and hopefully people are I guess you could be in your bed and work from home and you can wear like a shirt like I'm wearing and just be wearing your pajamas if you have to do a Zoom meeting. But Carrie, what are can you give us some, maybe tease us a little bit with some insights into things that what people should be thinking about for these great pajama jobs, some ideas?
Yeah, without question. I want to tell you quickly, I divided the book into the first part of the book is great jobs, just jobs that, a real smorgasbord. Maybe you never thought about, oh my gosh, I could really do that job from home. Because to be honest with you, so many of our jobs can be done remotely. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love the human connection of being in the office, but there's some really great jobs that you can definitely do from home. Many of these, of course, with the caveat, are white collar jobs. So keep that in mind. These are not customer facing positions, right? The second section of the book is about great employers. And I called 40 employers who have been doing this, and these are global around the world. But hey, you can work for a company that is not in the US or even in your hometown now, right? So that really get it, that have these systems in place to know how to deal with a remote workforce. And the last section is my workshop on, okay, yeah, how do I get one of these jobs? And how do I succeed at being a remote worker? Not everybody is hardwired to do this, right? So that's kind of how I divvied up the book. So, to dig into a little more advice, what specifically might your listeners be interested in, do you think?
Well, I mean, we have a wide variety of people that tune in each and every day from, mature to millennial. I think, just maybe why don't we discuss the transition, what that's like? I mean, transitioning to a work from home job, we've all done it, but what are some of the success factors to make it really work?
Excellent question. So here's what it takes. Truly, the core of it is great communication skills. So you cannot just send emails to people because we know that words get misinterpreted in that realm, right? You need to pick up the phone sometimes, actually have a phone conversation, or like we're having, talk, a virtual conversation, but where you see the other person and you can kind of read some of the body language signals. You need to set what is it who you're reporting to, your boss or your manager. How do they like to communicate? Have that conversation with them about what it is they like to do and how they prefer that you reach out to them. I think that you need to be very careful with your time management skills, right? This can be a problem. Either you're overworking, you're not working effectively. Really understand how you work best and how to work without distractions. And really manage your time so that you don't let people intrude on that intricate sort of work-life balance. All of us are struggling with I don't want people to think I'm slacking off, and I don't want my boss to think I'm not working hard or what it may be, because there's this perception that they don't trust you, that they think you're slacking off, that you're not doing your job, that you're out walking your dog, which, actually you should do if you have a dog, to take a break.
Right? That's true.
And that segues into the idea of self-care, because it's all about self-discipline, right? You're disciplined to do your job and have results. You need to tell your manager and your boss, constantly let them know your productivity. I accomplished this today. I am at this point in my project. Constant updates are necessary, but you need that self-care. You need to push away from the computer. You need to go out and take a walk, try to connect with people, maybe in real time if you can, wear your mask, whatever it may be. But do those things. Eat with an eye to nutrition. I know I sometimes forget to eat if I'm on the computer all the time, because there's no one over my shoulder saying, hey, you want to go grab a cup of coffee?
Yeah. Carrie, are we working? Well, I get the sense in talking to people just anecdotally that we're working a lot more, but is working virtually harder? It sounds like, you talk about, you got to be a good communicator. There's a lot of ways to communicate, and it's not just picking up the phone or email, it's looking at people one-on-one. Is it actually maybe a little bit more difficult for people, for bosses, for organizations to go to make this sea change shift?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the word trust. That's the bottom line. Is many workers and employers feel there's this disconnect. You want to make sure you're on the same page, because you feel a little insecure that maybe they don't understand how much you're putting into it, but when they can't eyeball you. Yeah. And the boss feels the same way, like, I'm not really sure what's happening here. How are they doing their jobs, so forth. So there's this trust factor. The other big issue, so that's why these touch points of communication every day, schedule a couple of touch points where you're connecting. But I think that's a problem. I think for employers moving forward, we're going to see, as people start to return to the office somewhat, they're going to be a hybrid workplace. I mean, definitely the genie's out of the bottle. Remote work is here to stay. It is not going away. And it is a great model for many people and many companies, but there'll be a hybrid model. And so you need to find that sweet spot where everyone trusts each other and understands that we're all doing our best to get this done. For a new employer, a new employee, I mean, if you're ramping into a new job, you're onboarding. Oh my gosh, this is difficult, because part of joining a company is this loyalty, this understanding what that company is and who your coworkers are. And this can be very tricky, because for employers, they want you to understand their culture. They want you to stay with them, to really, have this bond with the employer and believe in their mission. It's a little harder to do remotely. So these take some extra steps.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of challenges. I think there's a lot of very positive things about this and a lot of potential for productivity. I think that there are challenges, obviously, for communication and from a cultural perspective. Well, Carrie, I want to go to a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to shift gears maybe a little bit and talk to Carrie about finding a job if you're over age 50. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
If you were like 58% of Americans, you didn't go to college. Or you did, but never finished. Maybe it's the thought of a big, intimidating campus. At Independence University, all classes are held online. Maybe it's the thought of being alone in a sea of students. At Independence U, you'll get a personal support team to help you every step of the way. Maybe it's the cost of all those books and supplies. Online means no books to buy. We even give you a new laptop and tablet to keep when you graduate. Maybe your life doesn't fit typical college classes. At Independence U, our online college fits your schedule. Let's meet a few students.
Independence University held my hand through the process.
Don't be afraid to take the leap because it has changed my life drastically.
Just take the first step and you can do it. If I did it, you can do it too.
At IU, there's no barriers to your degree.
800-535-9916.
Welcome back. We're talking to personal finance expert, author, and New York Times columnist, Carrie Hannon. Carrie, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
Of course, I love being here.
Great to chat with you as always. I'm very excited about the book. I think it's obviously perfectly timed. Let's talk a little bit about finding a job if you're over age 50. There's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of preconceived notions about people in that age range. But why don't you weigh in? I know you wrote a piece for the LA Times.
Well, I'm telling you, Jeff, I think this is a great opportunity for older workers, and I use that word loosely. I really mean experienced, to especially if we're doing more remote work. Is that that helps a lot with ageism because it's you're measured by your performance, not necessarily by how you look, right? Or whether how many gray hairs you might have, but
no hair.
Depending on who you might be. So the point is there's some really important things, though, that older workers, we all took a big slam during the layoffs earlier this year. It's starting to recover somewhat. And I think older workers, in fact, are getting rehired, which is fabulous. But there are always these challenges. And so we need to pay attention. If you were laid off during this time, okay, how do you get back in? So I have a couple of tips there to help people get started.
Yeah, I want to hear those tips, but I mean, why do people, I always feel like there's so many different preconceived notions that we all have based on our own experiences. And, the same holds true for people at different age ranges. How do you beat that? Because that is just a bias that each of us has come up through with our own experiences. How do you blow through that? Because I think people of all ages and all experiences are valuable to an organization that wants diversity and diversity of opinion.
Oh, gosh, I love that blow right through it because that's what we need to do. We have to be intrepid about this because ageism is one of those great isms that no one really talks about. It's super pervasive, and it's these ideas and I'll just tick real quick as they think you're not up for the job, that you don't have the stamina, that you're using this as just a holding place until you actually do retire. They think you're not up to speed. This is employers with technology, that you're not going to work well with the younger workers. Maybe your boss is going to be younger than you, or that, you're stuck in your ways. You're not going to try new ways of doing things. Or, hey, here's the big one. You're too expensive because you've reached a certain salary point often and you want that. So I think that we're up a couple of different preconceived ideas, but yeah, we can tick off all of them ways to fight back and be noticed.
Yeah, I just think that if you're out there as an organization talking about diversity, and that's a big topic of conversation now for important reasons, but diversity of opinion and ideas matters, and you got to kind of shed those preconceived notions. I mean, I've seen plenty of people who are mature who are able to use a phone to email. I mean, I hate doing that because I think it just kind of justifies that argument. But in my mind, I love experience, and I always go to my parents to seek out their wisdom, or people that are, been ahead of me to get their guidance. And I also seek out people who are younger than me, who have experiences that I may not have had. So
Yeah.
it just seems like we just have to kind of get over it, in lack of a better term.
Well, and studies show that generational teams are more productive. So when you have the combination of the young and the old, it's a tremendous teamwork. The fact is, employers, especially coming out of the economy we're having now, kind of this uncertain time, employers and hiring managers are looking for experienced workers that they don't have to ramp up. They don't have to provide all this training, that have a network already, that understand, provide this ballast in the workplace. They've had setbacks. They know how to move forward. They know how to solve problems. And frankly, they're going to be loyal to you because they're not going to job jump the way somebody younger might. So I think there's a really good business case to be made for hiring an experienced worker. But then again, it's up to the individual, because when I cited those isms that people think about ageism, they are true of some workers. I'm not saying there aren't older workers that fall into some of those bad habits. And so you really need to look at yourself and say, hey, how do I market myself? How do I show my best self to this employer and why I can solve their problem today?
And how do you do that virtually? I mean, so now right now we don't have a vaccine. Hopefully we get one. So a lot of people can't come out to go to a face-to-face interview. So they're doing it as we're doing, talking virtually. What are things you can do? I mean, other than change your appearance, which I wouldn't advocate for that. You are who you are. I mean, I'm not going to throw on Just for Men just because I got a little gray hair in the beard. But I think that there's got to be some tips that you can offer that, if you're talking virtually, how you can overcome that.
Yeah, I mean, be comfortable with the technology, practice. If you haven't done a lot of Zooming, which I think most of us have at this point, you can say to an employer, hey, I've been working remotely. I know how the technology works. I've had to learn how to work it and how to manage my time. You've got all this already. If you never worked remotely before, you definitely can now. But doing these virtual conversations, it's really just being at ease and comfortable and understanding that, we're all human. We're just trying to make a connection and talk about what we do. But remember, with an employer, it's never about you. It's about them. So you have to really take a good look at what that job posting is. What are they looking for? What skills are they looking for? You're not going to learn it on the job. So you need to come prepared and be able to point to, yeah, I've done this before. I've solved this problem before, and this is how I did it. We call it your car story, the challenge, the action, the result. So you need to have those little stories in your head so that you can talk about it. You need to understand, do that MRI on your skills. What am I really good at? What do I like to do? What do I want to really be able to showcase of my own abilities? So many of us don't even understand at this point some of our terrific skills because we just take them for granted. So really figure that out. And if you don't have the skill for a job that you really want, or a company you really want to work for, whose mission you believe in, get it. There's some tremendous opportunities online right now to get free education, to ramp up your skills for not a lot of money, certificate courses. LinkedIn Learning is wonderful. Yeah. So, do some homework and see what's out there, but be willing to learn some new things, because being able to say to an employer or a hiring manager, during this where I was laid off, or I've had this little gap right now, this is what I've been doing. I added this skill. I did this. I volunteered here. I got out of my head. I got into the world, but I was using my skills and I was making a difference. So it's bringing that passion and that creative way of looking at work to who you are when you're talking to someone as you and I are.
Yeah. And it just does not have to be a zero-sum game where younger people lose or vice versa, then older, mature workers need to win. It doesn't have to be that way. It's not really that way. There's a lot of opportunity, and people just need to adapt and keep an open mind. Carrie, always a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program. Best of luck with your new book. Really interested to see how that flies off the virtual Amazon shelves. And we'll look forward to having you back on very soon.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Take care.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest or someone you think we should talk to? Then drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement, markets, technology, personal finance, and more, all in one place, check out today's edition of The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.